Today we're going to be doing some technical analysis for the SPY, Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and Nvidia. Nvidia had a pretty crazy day, so we're definitely going to get into that. But first, I just wanted to show you this quick clip.
This man reveals the true food inflation by comparing prices with the price tags on photos he took a year ago.
So I'm walking around Costco here and I'm noticing these prices. For example, these Madras lentils, $15.99. I bought those a year ago for $6.99. I keep getting told that we got, 6-7% inflation. You gotta be kidding me. Let's look at what else we got going on here. We literally bought this chicken broth, $5.69, 2 months ago. Dang, this is the flour we were buying for $5.99 last year.
The government has its own math that they manipulate in a dodgy way.
Now you're probably like, Luke, why are you showing me this information about inflation with food? I see it at the grocery store. The reason that I'm telling you this is because the data that we receive in the market excludes food, and food is the thing that we need to survive. You cannot go without food, and we're seeing increases in prices of food by almost 100% on many things in just 12 months. I just wanted to show you the inflation that is happening in the food, the thing that we need to live. The necessities are experiencing some of the most inflation that we're not even seeing reported in front of us in the actual inflation reports. And it's just an opportunity to say, I've been telling you there's going to be some kind of bull run into the end of the year. I think that is definitely possible that we do get some kind of bull run into the end of the year. But a soft landing, it's not in the cards. I make scary thumbnails, but I don't want to be one of those fear-mongering channels, okay? I want to give you guys something that you can actually use. So overall, I am leaning towards that bull run into the end of the year if we actually get some kind of sell-off. If you were paying attention to yields today, the market should have been pretty down today, and it wasn't, because we are actually testing, and we're going to go over those yields at the end and make sure to stick around for the VIX, because that's very important. But those yields were getting, towards those highs on those wicks that we've been talking about for a couple of days, and we saw almost no reaction from the market. We're actually holding above the 20 right now on the SPY, and we're holding above that 9-day on the SPY. And overall, what we're going to pay attention to on a lot of charts is the closing, this coiling up of these Bollinger Bands. A big move is coming, and we don't know which direction that is at this point, because overall today is an indecision day. And as we go into shorter time frames, the only thing that I can say is we could see some kind of bull move in the next couple of days, and we could see some kind of bear move. And so that's why we are going to tackle both. And right now we are seeing some kind of head and shoulders start to form on the 30-minute here on the SPY. But if this move does play out, it will project us high enough to get outside of our weekly and our monthly risk ranges, which we like to close in those risk ranges towards the end of the month. So if we do get out and get excited above these risk ranges, we could see some kind of sudden drop to get us back into these purple, or at least in between these yellow lines. Now, the bear side to this is we actually got above these highs today, right? We got above these highs, but what do market makers like to do? They like to take everyone's stops out and then make a big plunge down. So there is a bear case to be made here. And if this head and shoulders does not complete, what did we do? We just took out everyone who had stops here. We took out everyone who had stops here, and we took out everyone who had stops here in one day, right? We popped up, we took all of those out, and now maybe that is the setup to tell us that we are going to see further downside. The bull side, we do have some good structure here, so we could see that move play out, but the bear side, I want you to pay attention to this low. If we do break that low, we are most likely going to head to the bottom of our risk range for this week. And you can see the Qs here. We're not in a bad spot. We look like we could go higher. The only problem is we have that weekly risk range right above us. Okay, so if we do get excited tomorrow and come up into that weekly risk range, we could see some kind of sudden drop, because the market isn't necessarily reacting to the 10-year spiking by, what was it? It was 2.76% in one day, and we saw almost no reaction from that. So we are closing on the Qs above all of our moving averages at this point. I do still believe on the Qs we have some sort of indecision day, but we can look at a 30-minute, and the bullish case for us here is that we are wedging, okay? We are seeing some sort of wedging in here, and we are getting those very volatile moves up and down, and then maybe we do start to squeeze really tight, and then we see some kind of move. So when these things start to happen and we start to, get some indecision and get really tight, we really want to pay attention to the reaction of the data that we get this week, I believe tomorrow we have building permits, but overall the Fed talking. So that would be Jerome Powell talking on Thursday at noon is going to be the most important thing, at least that I am going to pay attention to as far as this week goes. So this here would be your bullish case, okay? We could see some kind of measured move to come up here, but you got to get past this high. And the whole problem with that is you would be outside of your weekly risk range, okay? So be very careful if we do get some kind of bullish move in the next day or two. And then the bear case here, we do want to pay attention to these lows. If these lows start to get taken out, I believe it's similar to the SPY, and we are going to start to test the bottom of our weekly risk range. And after showing you the bars on the SPY and the Qs, I just want you to see high yield growth. We've been paying attention to this and saying how there is that divergence, right, between this point here and the SPY is actually making a kind of a move like this line here. So we see a downward move in HYG, an upward move in the SPY. And today we actually see that HYG gap down just like the market. We almost got that island reversal I was talking about. But right now, HYG actually gapped down and did not recover, okay? Maybe that is something that could hint that we need to see some kind of downside. But right now, I can't tell you a definitive thing because we could really go either way as far as tomorrow. And I think something that explains how we could go either way is just looking at Apple, okay? We get a pretty perfect indecision bar, right? We gap down into our purple zone. We have buyers in that zone. We've talked about that a lot. And we come all the way up into our moving averages and we come all the way down and we're sitting right on that 20. So really, Apple has the opportunity to possibly come up and maybe fill this gap. Or in the near future, we could come all the way down and test the bottom of our purple zone here. So we just really want to be paying attention most likely on Apple to the bottom of this wick here and the top of this wick on this indecision candle. You know, we've been talking about this purple zone, but just in case you're new, this purple zone is very important. You see how we come down into it, we react off of it. We come down into it, we react off of it, and now we're coming into it, and we still are trying to react off of it. So it is very important, and I will be paying attention for a full daily close, right, somewhere down in this area on Apple in order to start to get more bearish at the time being, because we are starting to see, you know, price start to kind of do some coiling up, right? And then we could see a little bit of an upward move before we get a downward move into like deeper into our purple zone. Tesla's one that has a very, very big move coming. You can see that we're starting to get in the like very end of this, you know, triangle that we've been in ever since the all-time high. And you notice how tight these Bollinger Bands are getting, okay? So these do like to expand once they start to contract. They do like to expand, okay? So we could see some kind of move from this. And the bad part about this is this candle does not tell you too much. We did sit above the 50 again for another day, but we are below the 9 and the 20. So whether we are going to see people get a little excited before the earnings and see that ripped away the next day, or whether they get excited and then Jerome Powell says something bad, or whether they sell off and then Jerome Powell says, it's just, I don't necessarily know. And today's price action did not give us a lot of, you know, indication of where these stocks actually want to go. And that is why on Tesla, I am encouraging you to really just be patient and pay attention to breaks to the upside on this triangle here or breaks to the downside on this triangle. I am leaning towards a bullish case in a lot of stocks into the end of the year, but we need some of that to actually set up for us in order for that to happen. Another stock that's telling us there's indecision today, and that's why we can't necessarily pick a direction. Even though I'm leaning one way, I wouldn't necessarily say that it is definitive at this point. We did say yesterday that we were going to maybe see some kind of reaction to get sellers again in this zone. That actually happened, and it looks like we did that again today. We actually, you know, gapped down a little bit, and then we came all the way back into that zone, and we started to sell off, and then we bought back up. So Amazon is once again giving us another indecision, kind of like Apple, but we can see those Bollinger Bands starting to get tight. There is some kind of explosive move coming in stocks, guys. And we just want to pay attention to whether we do get some kind of dip and then reaction out of these types of areas, or whether we are going to see some further crash. We really have to pay attention to what Jerome Powell says on Thursday. One stock that is giving us some indecision, but might be giving us a hint that we will see downside is you do have Nvidia here that is looking like it does want to cross on a daily MACD right here. And you're seeing it come below the center or the 50 line here on the RSI. Now we do have an indecision type of bar. It's a very bearish indecision bar in my opinion. And the overall big hint that I think we might be getting here is that it did close below all these moving averages. So we could see some kind of reaction tomorrow to test these moving averages. And if we're able to take them back, then maybe we could see more upside. But at this point, if we do get rejection from those moving averages, I do believe we are heading to test the bottom of this neckline. Now, and if you didn't know what I was talking about, why I said like, hey, the market should have had a bad reaction today, and we did not really see we got a bad reaction, but then we bought it all back. So it's not necessarily a bad reaction here. Look at this yield. We went up 2.72% in one day, and the market did almost nothing. Okay, so if we do start to take out these highs and head to even higher level on these yields, we actually could see a bigger sudden drop. And you did see that I pulled up HYG, and we noticed that on HYG, we did get that gap down, but we actually stayed down, which is most likely what the market should have done today. But, nothing happens the way it's supposed to with the market, right? So I'm just telling you that if this does start to extend to the upside, because we did not get some kind of more down day today, we could see a pretty sudden drop in the market. Flip side to that, if we are testing these highs, right? We're testing these highs and we do start to fall off, we actually could see a pop in the market. So I just want to overall reiterate that we did get an indecision day, and to pay attention to what happens to things like the 10-year yield and stuff like that as you are trading throughout the day. We are noticing that these aren't necessarily coiling up. We're actually seeing that reaction to the upside. So we did get a slight coiling up with this right here, and maybe that reaction will be to the upside, but right now we have indecision, so we can't say whether or not yields are going to drop or pop. The main thing I want you to pay attention to with TLT is kind of like with HYG, okay? We're seeing TLT actually gap down for 2 days in a row, right? 2 days in a row, gapping down, while the market is actually holding up here, okay? This is where the market is technically at right now if you would compare the two charts, okay? So you notice that if those yields actually did pop, we probably should have gotten some kind of drop in the market, and then I would have been more confident about speaking into that bull run into the end of the year. It's definitely still possible at this point, but I do believe we need to go find some buyers in order to get that reaction. The last thing we're going to talk about is the VIX, and if you did make it this far, thank you so much for making it this far, because the VIX is very important. If you watch some of the stock stuff, but you don't pay attention to what the VIX is doing, you can actually get faked out a lot of the time. And what we're noticing on the VIX, and what I wanted to point out, is this Bollinger Band, they are starting to get real tight, which just tells me that there is some kind of really explosive move coming in the VIX. And I really, really think that we needed to see a little bit more selling today with that 10-year yield popping. And now the VIX is going to coil up even more, and the damage could be even worse. Okay, so the VIX is closing above all of its moving averages. What do we need in order to see a crash happen? Okay, we need this 50 to cross that 200 and then hold above that 200. But right now we could just see some kind of downward move because that hasn't happened, and we are holding above the 50 and the 20 or the 200, sorry, and we are about to get maybe above 20 in the very near future. Now, what you can look for on the VIX, if we do get above 20, let's say we get a rapid sell-off and we get above 20, okay? If we do get above 20 and then we get some kind of good news that tells us that we are maybe going to get that pause, right? We could see some kind of rapid move in the VIX, and then maybe we get that big wick while at the same time setting up some kind of little divergence here, and then we can start to see volatility subside into the end of the year. But we want to be paying attention to if we actually get that news, okay? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying there is a pause. I'm saying that it would really take people off guard into the end of the year if we did get that pause from the Fed. All right, the overall takeaway from this video is we did get kind of a mixed bag, kind of indecision day, and I do believe that we needed stocks to go to lower levels in order to look a little bit healthier here, especially with those, retail sales coming in pretty hot, and last month getting revised up 0.1% from what we actually got. So not only is it higher than we expected, we're being lied to, and last month is higher than expected. So we really want to pay attention to what Jerome Powell says on Thursday. I will overall say that. As far as tomorrow goes, we're kind of in an indecision. We could go up, we could go down. So I suggest that you just keep those stops a little bit tighter. And I do wish you all the luck in the world trading tomorrow, though. Okay. Good luck. Have a good night. Peace.